Chapter 30 of Dronaparva, the one lie. Krishna saw the two divisions of the army. He told Arjuna, I think it will be better if you go towards the left wing where your enemies are all together. Bhima too saw the two portions and said, Arjuna, please let us accost our dear enemies. We will now be able to do what we have sworn to do. Thus, prompted by Krishna and Bhima, Arjuna began to attack the army. The four Kauravas faced Arjuna as they had sworn to in the presence of Drona. They were not finding it as easy as they thought. It was not easy to fight with Arjuna. The sun could not be seen because of the arrows and dust that were rising up in the sky. That half of the army was routed in no time. Drona had gone to the northern side of the field, and there he was harassing the Panchalas, the Matsyas and the Kekayas. He looked like a heap of fire burning without any smoke. So full of lustre was he that everyone trembled at the sight of this fiery Brahmin. The Panchalas, the old enemies of Drona, were faring badly. Drona killed 3 of the grandsons of Drupada. This was a terrible blow to Drupada. He rushed on Drona and Virata came to his help. The two veterans were engaged in fighting with the terrible Drona. They fought for a while, but Drona was not just angry today. He was furious with the world in general and with the Panchalas in particular. He took 2 sharp javelins and with them he killed Drupada and Virata. There was a great shout in the army of the Pandavas when these 2 great men fell. Drishtadyumna saw his father and his sons killed at the same time. He rushed at the terrible Drona with the words, If I do not kill this man today in the battle, I will lose all the punya I have acquired so far. He attacked the army of the Kauravas. The Pandavas with Arjuna rushed to the help of Drishtadyumna, and the Kauravas led by Duryodhana came to the help of Drona. There was great anger in the heart of all the Pandavas. The battle that was fought was the most dreadful. Drishtadyumna could not face Drona. So well protected was he, and he was himself too fierce. Bhima looked on for a moment and said, It looks as though the oath of my dear friend is going to be false. Drishtadyumna, you have taken an oath in the hearing of all the heroes that you will kill Drona today. If you cannot do it, I will help you. I will kill this sinful man. Bhima rushed towards the Kaurava army and joined the others and fought, trying to get at Drona. The battle that was fought on the 15th day of the Great War was the most terrible of all. Drona had lost all sense of dharma. He was incarnation of fire today. He was more angry than Bhishma was on the 9th day of the war. The destruction caused by Drona in the Pandava army was something unimaginable. No one could be seen. Everyone was enveloped in the gloom caused by the arrows of Drona. Radheya, Drona, Arjuna, Yudhishthira were all there, but no one could be recognized. There were some duels fought, but in the presence of Drona and his fury, in front of this carnage, no one had any spirit to fight duels. Duryodhana fought a duel with Nakula and he was defeated. Dushasana fought with Sahadeva and he too was defeated. Bhima fought with Radheya. He fought very well, but he fainted away in the end, unable to bear the arrows of Radheya. He had to go away in the chariot of Nakula. The most spectacular duel that was fought was the one between Drona and Arjuna. It was the most wonderful duel. It was a grand display of all the divine astras which both had in their possession. Arjuna could not win and neither could Drona. It was a terrible duel. In his mind, Drona was appreciating every shot of Arjuna, but he had to keep on fighting. To the consternation of the entire army, Drona took up the great Brahmastra. It caused a great commotion of the elements. The earth quaked in fear and the sky became dark. Drona sent the Brahmastra towards Arjuna and a miracle was seen. Arjuna sent the same Brahmastra and the 2 astras destroyed each other. Drona gave up fighting with Arjuna and turned his attention to the Panchala army once again. Drishtadyumna and Dushasana fought a duel. Dushasana was made to go back, defeated. The fight became general once again. A duel was fought between Duryodhana and Satyaki. It was very interesting and it was memorable because of the conversation between the two. Both were raining armies on each other. Both were smiling, as was the custom of heroes. When they were facing each other, the smile was more pronounced since they had been friends once upon a time. Duryodhana thought of the many incidents that had happened to them when they were together. He felt angry with himself since he had to fight with a friend of his youth. He said, Satyaki, what a hateful thing it is that I am doing. I hate myself for my anger and my pride, my arrogance and my love for the kingdom. These things and the fact that I am a Kshatriya make me fight with you and you with me. There was once upon a time when you were dearer to me than my very life, and so was I to you. Satyaki, I suddenly think of the many happy days we spent together. Now we are facing each other on the battlefield, and all the happenings of the long ago have become old and sere. If it had not been for my advice, we would not have been fighting as we are now. Duryodhana brushed away his tears and continued to fight. Satyaki was returning his arrows, and while fighting he smiled at Duryodhana and said, My dear Duryodhana, my friend, this is not the sabha where we used to sit and talk. It is not the home of our Guru either, where we would all play together when we were young and carefree. Duryodhana said, What a distance of time! Where are those games we played then? I find that we are now fighting this dreadful duel with each other. What a ruthless thing it is, this thing called fate. If only I had not been so full of avarice, this would never have happened. I feel that fate is the most powerful opponent I have. Radeya is right. There is nothing that can be done if fate has decided our future. Satyaki said, This is the rule set down for all Kshatriyas to fight without caring whether we are friends or not. A guru has to be killed by his pupil and a friend has to be killed by a friend. If you do really hold me dear in your heart, Duryodhana, please kill me soon. If I am killed by you, I am sure to reach the heavens meant for good people. I cannot bear this agony in the mind of a friend. Please use all your powers and kill me. They set their minds on the duel and spoke no more. Satyaki defeated Duryodhana in the duel and went away from his presence. This duel was too much of an emotional strain for Satyaki. He had seen the proud Duryodhana eaten up with pride and arrogance. He could bear that. But this Duryodhana was new to him. This man who was remembering the past was hurting him too much. Satyaki could not bear to see the tears in the eyes of the Kuru monarch. The moment was too sacred to him. He would not talk about it to anyone. Satyaki went away to another part of the field. He would not risk meeting Duryodhana again. The fight had become general again. The Pandava army was just helpless in the grip of Drona. He had dispatched his terrible astras against the army. 20,000 men were wiped out in a single movement because of the Brahmastra he had dispatched against the soldiers. The army was being tossed about like the waves of the sea in a raging storm. Everyone was looking to Arjuna to save the army from this upheaval. It was not possible for anyone to face the glow on the face of the great Drona. The Pandavas spoke to one another. They said, It is not like our Acharya at all. This man who is fighting is someone who has become so different. It is not Drona. It is some devil which has entered into him and is making him behave in this inhuman fashion. No one can face him. He is blazing like the fire at the time of the end of the world. Krishna saw the panic in the army. He saw that Drona was fighting an unjust war by using the divine astras on men who were strangers to them. He said, Yudhishthira, this man cannot be defeated in the war. If he is allowed to continue, you will not have a single living soldier in your army by the time evening falls. Unless something drastic is done, there is no hope for us. Unless he is made to lay down his weapons, we cannot kill him. I am sure he will stop fighting if he is made to throw them down of his own accord. My dear Yudhishthira, Drona has today adopted unrighteousness in his fighting. We will also use unfair methods to kill him. If the oath of Drishtadyumna is to be true, we will have to do something to make him throw away his weapons. I have a feeling that he will do it if he hears that his beloved son Ashwathama is dead. Drona will give up all thoughts of fighting if he realizes that his son is dead. Let us tell him that Ashwathama is dead. Arjuna did not like this suggestion. Others did approve of it. Yudhishthira approved of it with great difficulty. Bhima went into the heart of his own army, and with his mace he killed the elephant by name Ashwathama. He came to the presence of Drona and with shame suffusing his face exclaimed, Ashwathama hata. Ashwathama is dead. Hearing his words, Drona was upset. He felt faint, but soon he recovered himself. He thought of his son. He felt that no one could defeat Ashwathama. He would not believe Bhima. Drona shook off his worry and continued to fight with Drishtadyumna. He fought with double the vigor he was using till now. His fury took a dreadful form. Again he invoked the Brahmastra, and against all codes of fair fighting he sent it to destroy all the army of the Panchalas and the Somakas. There was an inhuman slaughter of the army, and the rishis who were in the sky watching the progress of the war now came to Drona unseen by human eyes. They had with them Bharadwaja, the father of Drona. They said, Drona, you have begun to fight in a manner which is not righteous. The time has come when you should die. Your end has come. Look at us and lay down your arms. After seeing us, you should not continue this cruel deed. You are a master of all the Vedas and the Vedhangas, as befits a Brahmin. You must not be a Kshatriya anymore. It does not become a great man like you to be cruel. Abandon this curtain of ignorance which clouds your vision. Set your mind on the eternal. The period of your sojourn on earth is ended. Your sending the Brahmastra is not a good thing. It is a wrong thing you have done. Lay down your arms. Listening to their words and remembering the words of Bhima, Drona became suddenly dispirited. In front of him he saw Drishtadyumna, the man who had been born for the sole purpose of killing him. Drona turned his eyes on Yudhishthira and said, My child, I want you to tell me if it is true that my son is dead. He was sure that Yudhishthira would never speak an untruth, even if he were to get the entire world because of that. Ever since he was a child, Yudhishthira had not spoken a single falsehood. On that certainty, his guru asked him if it was true that Ashwathama was dead. Krishna had already anticipated this emergency. He had told Yudhishthira, if this Drona fights for a half a day more, I can assure you there will be nothing left of your army. It is your duty to speak this lie for the sake of saving your army. I know that it is a sin to tell a lie, but under these circumstances, you are allowed to tell a lie. This is lie spoken by you for saving the lives of so many will not be a lie. The sin will not cling to you. I will assure you of that. Yudhishthira had agreed to speak the lie. Bhima said, I went and killed the elephant of the king of Malava. The elephant is called Ashwathama. I went near the presence of the Guru and shouted that Ashwathama is dead. But he did not pay much heed to my words. You must listen to the words of Krishna. You must tell our Guru that his son is dead. He will certainly believe you. He has so much respect for you. Yudhishthira agreed to speak the untruth because that was the only way to save his army. When the great Drona asked him, My child, I want you to tell me if it is true that my son is dead. Yudhishthira said, Ashwathama hatak. Softly he added, Kunjara. Softly he added, the elephant called Ashwathama. It is said that the chariot of Yudhishthira was always 4 inches above the ground because of his dharma. But now, as soon as he spoke these words, his chariot descended to the earth and touched the ground. Yudhishthira was today like any other mortal on the earth. He walked like the other men. Hearing the words of Yudhishthira, the great Drona lost all interest in fighting. He fell down in a faint. When he roused himself up and resumed the fight, his heart was not in it. Drishtadyumna approached him. All the time he had been stationed in front of Drona's chariot. He shot a sharp arrow at Drona. It was not counteracted with as much power as before. Drona saw that his hand, which had been raining arrows in an unending stream till then, had suddenly become fatigued. He could not summon his astras either. They would not do his bidding as readily as they used to. Drona was very angry. He took up another bow, a strong bow, the gift of his guru Angirasa, and began to cover his opponent Drishtadyumna with arrows. He almost regained his lost power of fighting. He fought a fierce duel with Drishtadyumna. Drishtadyumna's bow was cut, his horses were killed, and he was without a chariot. With a sword in his hand, Drishtadyumna rushed at the chariot of Drona. He had every intention of killing him. Drona broke his sword with his arrows and also his shield. Drishtadyumna was absolutely helpless and without any defense. Drona shot arrows at the defenseless man. These arrows were very short. They were called Vaitasmikas. They were meant for an opponent who is very close. Very close. There was no way of fighting these arrows. There were only a few people who knew about the Vaitasmikas. They were Kripa, Arjuna, Drona, Radheya, Krishna, Pradyumna, Satyaki and Abhimanyu. Drona had every intention of killing Drishtadyumna with these arrows when he was absolutely at his mercy. Satyaki was looking on and he sent 10 arrows from his bow. These 10 arrows cut the arrows of Acharya. Satyaki released Drishtadyumna from the death grip of Drona. Arjuna and Krishna shouted for joy. They were too far away to interfere in the duel between Drona and Drishtadyumna. Arjuna was busy keeping the other Kaurava heroes at bay, even as he was on the 10th day when the great Bhishma fell. Arjuna said, Krishna, Satyaki, pleases me immensely. Look how skillfully he is plying his chariot so that he may be near at hand to help his friend. He is the favorite of all of us. Yudhishthira, Nakula, Bhima and Sahadeva love him as much as I love him. Satyaki was stealing the show that day when the duel between Drona and Drishtadyumna was being fought. As was the usual practice with them, the Kaurava heroes began to surround Satyaki on all sides. Shri Krishna Pranamast. Chapter 31 of Dronaparva, the fall of Drona. In spite of the words of the rishis, in spite of the fact that his son was dead, Drona was not ready to die. He thought like a young man of 16. He went on with the destruction of the army. He destroyed 24,000 Kshatriyas and still he was not satisfied. His anger clouded his mind and again he took up the Brahmastra in his hand. Bhima rushed to Drishtadyumna, who was without a chariot or weapon. Bhima placed him in his chariot and the two of them began to fight with Drona. They counteracted all his astras and still the man was not vanquished. Satyaki had taken the place of Bhima. Now Bhima advanced to the chariot of Drona. He stood leaning against the great Drona's chariot. He was as angry as a lion. Bhima looked at the Acharya and said, if Brahmins had continued to practice their dharma without taking up the work of Kshatriyas, the race of Kshatriyas would not have been destroyed at all. They say that being compassionate and refraining from hurting others is the virtue of the highest order, and that the Brahmin is the home of all virtues. But you are different. You are a great Brahmin, but you are a Brahmin just by birth. By profession, you are a butcher. You have been killing thousands and thousands of men who have all been faithful to their professions, unlike you. You are too fond of wealth and you are blinded to the true value of things by your ignorance. Why do you want all this wealth? Is it for the sake of your wife and children? Your only son is dead and still you are continuing this work of a butcher. You teach dharma to others and you will not follow it yourself. Are you not ashamed of yourself? Bhima's word could always hurt Drona. He was the one man who was frank enough to say what he felt. On the battlefield, when he was trying to guard the Vyuha, Bhima had spoken words which hurt him, and now, today, it was unbearable. In a moment, Drona realized that all the words of Bhima were true. He realized that he was himself in the wrong. Suddenly, Drona decided to give up fighting. He dropped his bow and arrows. He called out the names of Duryodhana and Radheya. He said, Radheya, Duryodhana, Kripa, fight very carefully from now on. I am laying down my arms. I am not fighting anymore. Guard yourself against the Pandavas. Drona sat down on the terrace of his chariot. His mind was bent on giving up his life. He assumed the position adopted for the practice of yoga. Drona became blind and deaf to all that was taking place around him. His concentration became intense. Drishtadyumna advanced with his sword in his hand. He had every intention of killing Drona. Arjuna was overcome with pity for his Acharya. He shouted, Do not kill him. Do not kill Drona. Capture him. Bring him alive as a captive. But do not kill him. Arjuna's words fell on deaf ears. Drishtadyumna went near the stiff form of Drona. With his sword, Drishtadyumna cut off the head of Drona. There was a glow which ascended to the heavens. Drona had joined the rishis who were assembled in the skies. Sanjaya, who had been granted the power to see everything which happened on the field, saw it. The others knew nothing, with the exception of Yudhishthira, Kripa, and Krishna. Drishtadyumna's body was drenched with the blood of Drona. He held the sword in one hand and the head of Drona in the other. He jumped down from the chariot. In the midst of shouts of horror from the heroes on either side, Drishtadyumna threw the head of great Drona on the ground. The oath of Drishtadyumna had been fulfilled. As soon as he descended from the chariot of Drona, Bhima rushed up to him and embraced him very warmly. They danced together in ecstasy. Bhima said, My friend, happily your oath has been accomplished. I will embrace you again when the Sutaputra Radheya is dead, and again when Duryodhana is killed. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Krishna Arpanavastu.